we'll chat each team on the way through, cover all the big issues, obviously. And Kingy, you want to show us something, I guess, from the past 7 years of each team, just to see where clubs are at, but also what history tells us about if you want to win the big one.
Yeah, you've got to finish top four to win it. And I think that there's been an anomaly or two across the last 20 years, but reality is you've got to win 15-plus games to finish in the top four these days. I know 2020 was a slightly different season, but if you're looking at teams' form, and look at Collingwood's here, you can see the last 7 years, they've gone 9, 15, 15, 9, 6, 16 and 18 the last 2 years in terms of winning home and away games. 0 to 5, teams that are either going into rebuild or just coming out live in that zone. Not really relevant to most teams. 8 to 10 wins, I think it's just a given that most teams are going to win minimum 8 games, barring those rebuild teams. And the quicksand of 9 to 14 wins, pretty much every team bounces in and out of for a little while. So we're talking about the gaps being really small. 2 to 3 wins or losses ruin or make your season.
So a lot of teams live in that red zone in the middle there. You've got to get above that.
You do. You've got to find a way to blast through it or totally avoid it, which a couple of teams have done over the last few years. But you're not a realistic contender until you can get your head above water there from that red zone.
And obviously we're starting with Collingwood and it ends with the flag. There's COVID in the middle for all the teams. It's just a slight little wrinkle, but it's fantastic, Joey, isn't it? Just to see what history shows you and also just to remind everyone with each team where they've been.
Yeah, that's right. And this will be a bit of a common trend and we'll touch on it later. Teams that have been successful have a little couple of dip years and then spike again. And that's been the case with Collingwood. We know that since Craig McRae's taken over. And I mean, we always probably say that the team that's won the premiership the year before is thereabouts again the following season. There's no doubt about it. They are going to have to defy the odds, though. I mean, when you do talk about back-to-back, only 4 teams in 35 years have actually won back-to-back flags. So it is really, really hard to do. They're going to have the oldest list in the competition. But we know what they've been able to do. We know about the attention to detail, the leadership of this group and their ability just to win games, despite what the numbers sometimes told us last year, Kingy. And absolutely, you expect Collingwood to be thereabouts again.
They were dominant for the first 10 weeks of the season, played the best football we've seen for some time, really attractive, and Craig McRae's brand just took us all by storm. I can mount a case for the last 6 to 8 weeks that they essentially won the flag out of form. They won games in bursts. I know you highlighted that in the back half of the season and got it right when the games individually needed to be won.
Yep.
I can see them improving drastically on what we saw in the last 6 to 8 weeks. You know, we talk a lot about Nick Dacos, but this kid is 21 years of age. We're scraping the surface. He's 5 votes clear in the Brownlow at about round 18. So there's no reason why he can't get better. And the old rising tide lifts all ships. I mean, not every player on this list has to be a star because they've got 3 or 4 already.
Wouldn't be a first crack show, Hutto, without Nick Dacos getting the highlights. Kingy straight to it. But you're right. I mean, I had the same sort of notes. The Nick Dacos-De Goey 1-2 punch for me is now the best in the competition. I think it's gone past Liberatore, Bont or Petrarca, Oliver. I think the De Goey-Dacos combination can take them as far as they want to go. They are that good and play that well together. We saw it grand final day. And I had the same things. They really struggled, Collingwood, in the second half of the year to play a front half game. They were getting beaten in clearance and contest and ground ball, but they were so good at winning off turnover and playing that game. And we saw it from the back half throughout the finals. But then when they needed to defend really hard against Melbourne, they were able to hold up and then play the way they did. So it's exceptional. They do it slightly differently, Collingwood, but you can't doubt this team. How can you put it past them?
You very rarely see a team make a grand final and come through with the health they've got at the moment. I mean, minimal surgeries through the off-season.
Obviously lose McStay.
They lose McStay, which you're always going to lose 1 or 2. So to lose just the 1 or 2 from that deep campaign, I think is a real benefit. The only worry really is the age of Pendlebury, Sidebottom and Howe. They're the players of significant influence that are probably we've talked about for a little while. When do they eventually tip over? Father Time still undefeated, Joey. So there will come a time where they're no longer major players. But I love the slogan of back to work rather than back to back. And it's evident if you go and watch them train or any messaging that comes out of Collingwood, it's just about doing your role day in, day out.
So the McRae magic, I mean, this is where it gets tested. As you say, it's 90 years since Collingwood have done it. It's so hard for every team. Is that... does that run out at some stage, or is he so magical that he can conjure what they need to go back?
That's where my logical head says it is going to be hard. I mean, they won their 3 finals by a total of 12 points. Let's be fair. They only won 5 of the 12 quarters in finals, and they've gone 17-4 in games decided by 10 points or less. Like, even if they are the greatest clutch team we've probably ever seen, those numbers say it's logically hard to do that again. Now, that's just sort of the reality. But as we just touched on, though, Hutto, the magic of Craig McRae, you're not going to put it past this team to defy the odds again, and that's how I look at it.
So where have we got them? What have you?
Yeah, I still think they've got so much scope for improvement. So I'm one of the guys that's going to tip in and have them going back to back, because I just think the gap between their best and the rest is still significant. Murphy's a worry. Does he get back up and play meaningful senior footy at centre-half back, because he's a key component. But outside of that, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be top four and charging again.
Yeah, they're going to be around the mark, absolutely. Whether they continue to win all these close games and continue to defy the odds, as we've touched on, but you're not going to say that they aren't going to be a top four team.
All right, let's move on to the team. And the same question in reverse, I suppose, is asked from the grand final that lost to Collingwood, and that is the Brisbane Lions. And if you look at their last 7 years, of course, it started with under Chris Fagan with the 5 wins in each of his first 2 seasons, and then 5 years of top 5 finishes without that ultimate success. Last year, their first grand final in almost 20 years. We know they're unbeaten at the Gabba. 5 from 6 in the home and away season. Away from home, that's always a question. Tom Dudo, the main acquisition as far as defence goes, and Jack Gunston, I suppose, with him going, there's probably not much coverage up forward if Danaher or Hipwood perhaps gets injured. But really, overall, Brisbane look like they should be up there again and challenging. And it's a nice looking graph without having the flag.
Yeah, Darcy Gardner's the one they're trialling as a forward to maybe be that backup replacement. But for me, it's all about, if they maintain the rage and they've got the desire and the hunger again to climb the mountain, they'll be thereabouts. You've spoken about the heartbreak of now 5 years of losing in finals and, of course, the grand final. And again, no team in the last 10 years has gone back to the grand final after losing one. In fact, only 2 teams have gone to a prelim. So it is a challenge, but I think that this group is ready again. I think they are hungry. They're in their prime. My understanding of the mail is they have come back with a real steely determination about them. So for me, I don't think that's going to be an issue. The fortress of the Gabba, they've won 42 of their last 47. I think they're going to be right there again.
Yeah, I'm probably a little bit different. History tells you that if a coach doesn't win one their first 5 to 6 years, they don't win one. Since 1990, 16 of 19 premiership coaches have been in their first 5 years. So I think that their year to win it was last year.
Yeah.
It's difficult for interstate teams to come to the MCG and play effectively a home game at Collingwood's venue. So that is difficult. But they're the games you've got to win. So I worry. I see it slightly different. It's been up for 5 years. 16 wins, 14 wins, 15, 15, 17. You've been in the firing line regularly. And I know all you can do is front up. 13 from 13 at home last year. You're not going to do any better than that. So that probably worries me a little bit. And do they have a massive point of difference? I think Kadeem Coleman could be their point of difference. He's an elite kicker off half-back. I'm not sure whether they can maybe trial him through the midfield just because he's such a unique player. I know they have a lot of players that play forward and can spend time in the midfield, Joey, but this guy's different to what they've got at the moment.
Yeah, he's going to be pivotal for them, you feel, going into this season. But look, they're still in the right age bracket. They've only got a handful of players that are 30 plus, and there's only a few of them that have played 200 plus games. Like, it's not a team that you feel have been up for a number of years and have been, weathered or scarred. I still think that they can do it. The big question mark I have, and I think this is the only issue, is you speak to other teams, everyone goes, Brisbane beat you on talent. They keep it pretty simple the way they play. They are as talented a team as anyone in the competition, but they need to find some, like Collingwood, some nuance about their game. Throw something different to the opposition, manage situations. And it was interesting hearing Dane Zorko on radio over summer basically address that. He said Brisbane need to find a few tricks in the playbook and throw something different at the opposition, because he referenced that's what Collingwood did to them on grand final day. So they have been found out when they come up against other elite talent in big finals. If they can just add that from the coach's box to their game, I think everything else holds in really good stead. It's a really balanced profile. They don't have any real weaknesses. I expect them to be the challenger, and for me, they're probably the premiership favourites.
All right, well, that gives us up where you think they'll finish. Let's have a look at where we've got them in terms of top 4 or otherwise, and we all have put them for despite your doubts, you've still got them.
Yeah, but I don't think as dominant as last year. I think a slight regression. We'll still have them around the top 4, but I'll be putting others in front of Brisbane. Incredibly healthy last year too. I mean, 9 players play every game.
That's a good point.
It may not have that luck this year. That's why I keep looking at last year and saying maybe that was the year to win it.
All right, well, let's move along then. Next up, we have the Giants, of course, and what a second half of last season they had. It was quite incredible to see what they were able to do. They've only missed the finals twice in the past 7 years. That grand final appearance in 2019, and Adam Kingsley, they were 15th after round 12. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Just 3 wins, but it all turned around. No massive personnel changes, so really they're going to build from within, but so much talent either at the younger level or the older level of their list, and it's whether this could be the year they can break through.
Yeah, and you look at that graph there. You sometimes can get consumed with the fast finisher from the previous season. The back half of the year, get on the fly, make a charge. Coming into the final series, they were the hottest team in the comp. They really were. And I think it's off the, talked to the 1-2 punch before, earlier with Dacos and De Goey. I think Finn Callaghan and Tom Green can be that for the Giants. I know he's injury impacted at the start of the season, Finn, but I think by the back half of the year, we'll be talking about stopping these two. How do you stop the ball on the inside? And this guy, he's got moves. He's more than just a ball-winning, big-bodied midfielder. He's got a step. He's a tackle breaker. He's going to be one of those modern marvels we talk about. And this guy, he's going to be right up there again in the Brownlow medal contentions. And he just sets the standard. His numbers are right up there with Errol Goulden's, but he doesn't get the raps in terms of creating scores and getting disposals. He's just an accumulator of elite proportions. So I think those two will take them a long way again in 24.
Yeah, and I think their system, under coach Adam Kingsley, the way they play is the modern game. So we know 17 of the last 18 premiers are top 3 in that turnover game, points off turnover differential. They are elite in that category. They were the best team in the competition the second half of the year. They're a top 4 team in that stat off the back of their pressure and their ability to win the ball back in the front half of the ground and the middle. I think they've got an elite, real stingy defence when Sam Taylor is fit and healthy. So it's funny, you talk about the blueprint of Collingwood the year before where they came charging home in 2022, got to a prelim, lost by a point, and the question marks were, can they do it again and go to another level? Well, they showed that. For me, it's really similar to the Giants in the way they play. Even their numbers, like they won 5 of their 7 close games last season. Time in front for Giants last year was only 38% of the time. It was 14th ranked in the competition. So they were able to beat teams in bursts, like what Collingwood have been able to do. So if they continue to follow that trajectory, well, they'll be thereabouts again.
It's a big opening round match, isn't it, against Collingwood, because they've got North and West Coast after that, and they could really set their season up in reverse to last year, couldn't they? But so that'll be a massive first game.
Yeah, good test, straight up, against the team that beat them by a point in their preliminary final. They'll be looking to get revenge.
My only query is, can Toby Green do it again? It was such a dominant season, 66 goals. It's a huge volume from just one player. I'd love to see another forward step up.
Cadman?
Cadman's the talk, isn't it? Everyone's waiting for the number 1 pick to stamp himself, but is he ready for that? He's still very slight. I don't think he's quite there yet. So it leaves a lot to Hogan and Green to get the job done in terms of the scoreboard influence.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are. I mean, I've ended up leaving them out of the 8. Can you believe?
Really?
Oh, no,
but I had them in the 4 initially, and I've gradually.
Sound like Hudson.
It has changed so much.
Had a good summer.
So let's have a look at where we all put them. But someone had to slip out. I've got them just missing. So
wow.
And for really, we're tossing all those teams up in the middle.
Well, we will say that we are going to be leaving good teams out of our 8, all of us. So you've gone with the Giants. I think, no doubt, they will play finals. I'm really bullish on their style of footy, the way they go about it, and pretty confident.
And their back line, we didn't touch on that. Their back line's unbelievable. Iden's really become a top liner. Taylor and Buckley, we've talked about a lot. But
Ashton Whitfield on half-back flanks.
There's a lot to like about the Giants, and you'd be a fool to leave them out of your 8.
Yeah. And I actually hope I'm wrong, because I actually love the Giants. I feel bad doing that. But anyway, some teams had to be left out. Let's look now to another team that missed out last year, although arguably they shouldn't have, and that's the Adelaide Crows. Of course, since their 2017 grand final appearance, they had the steep decline, led to the change of coach, and then it's gone 7, 8 and 11 last year. No finals yet, but a goal umpiring review may have changed all that. They were the number 1 scoring team in the AFL last year, dominant at home, only won twice on the road, as we know. No major recruits, so they are still young, 14th in terms of age overall list and 15th in experience, but they would certainly be hoping in the City of Churches to be playing finals footy this year. Yeah,
they would. And as you touched on, 3 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, 11 wins. I suppose the question is, it's very rarely does the rebuild continue to go linear. There is generally some growing pains in the rebuild, and I've got no doubt they're on the right path. I think they're heading in the right direction, but just whether this year's a year, a bit of a dip year, like we've seen from some other teams in the past as they rebuild. Because when I dive a bit deeper, they were 8 and zip when they kicked 100 points in games by an average winning margin of almost 10 goals. So when they were able to get their offense flowing, they were unstoppable. And most of them were at home. But if they were kept under 100 points, they were 3 and 10. You know, does their defence stack up when they come up against teams that can stop their offence and take that away from them? And I think that'll be a focus of most teams playing against the Adelaide Crows this year. If you can stop their offence, they're vulnerable still, I think, defensively with some inexperience and a little bit of injury and maybe a bit of depth in that midfield. So I've just got a concern it might be a bit of a growing pain year for Adelaide, but no doubt they're on the right path.
Yeah, I think we all share those concerns because I just don't think they're good enough. I just don't think as a list they're talented enough to rise significantly into that contention sort of area. And it probably worries me the glut of injuries they've got at this stage of pre-season. You know, the names are there, you all know them, but there's half a dozen at the moment that's a real concern. Yeah. I just don't like entering the season banged up.
And they were the best. They had the least injuries last year of any team in the competition. Their cost,
So it's a shock. They're going to have a new role, I think, for Isaac Rankin. Ball reports he's going to be going into centre bounce clearances and being a damaging midfielder. We call it the Dustin Martin role, if you like, but I love that. I think it's time for this guy to just take full control. Now, I notice he's not in the leadership group, which irks me a little bit and worries me that maybe he's not the full professional package. Maybe he's not quite there to be his absolute best. He's almost 24 years of age. You know, it's time for that to happen. I think he's got elite talent. I really think could have a big season. Where that takes them to, I'm not sure. I think the Crows will be around the mark again. Probably just missing finals, Joey, but they may be a better product even though they may not win as many games. I think they're improving. I know the coach will be in his end of his 5th year, so this is the stage where we say, hey, what are we doing? I still think he's doing a lot right, Matthew Nicks, with this group.
And I agree. I think that's why it's more than just wins and losses. I think you've got to look at the way they're developing. I still think they've got a lot of young players that have got a high ceiling. Like you've mentioned already, Rankin, but Rochelle, what level can he get to? Thilthorpe, we haven't even scratched the surface. Fogarty, Pedler, Worrell, Michael Annie. Like they've actually got some young talent that can really spike.
I mean, if Thilthorpe does lift and we get Rankin and Rochelle showing their brilliance, then they'd have to absolutely be contenders.
So a couple of other factors though. 2 and 8 on the road last year, so that's an issue for them. A young side learning to win on the road, and they were 2 and 8 in games decided by 3 goals or less as well. So still got some development and learning to go. I think they're on the right path, but I just don't have them playing finals this season.
And again, a bit like Toby Green, they got maximum out of Tex Walker last year. 70-odd goals, 76 goals. So can he do it again? Probably not to that level, but if he doesn't, where does it fall to? Is there someone there to pick up the slack? You hope it's Riley Thilthorpe.
Yeah, because that would change your view of them. I think if he can become close to a dominant forward alongside the other 2 guns. So have we all got them just missing out again?
Yeah, I do. It's not offensive. It's going to be their issue. It's going to be just defensively. Can they stack up against when they play the best teams?
And they might just be banged up. They might just be one of those teams that just has an injury-riddled start to the year. And if you start poorly, you generally hold. So hope that's not the case, but we think it will be.